Nothing in a way. This is the start of something big.
Also happening Monday, MLK Day. So in honor of it, we're going to learn about a local man who played a huge part in ending segregation in schools. You will want to stick around for this history lesson, and it's one I bet you don't know. It's fascinating. We've got that when Great Day comes back. Welcome back, everyone. With Martin Luther King Jr. weekend upon us, we are learning more about a local man who played a huge part in ending segregation in schools across the country. His name was Lloyd Gaines. His story is fascinating, but his fate is a complete mystery. Here to tell us more is celebrity historian Raffi Andonian, who has a real knack for uncovering these kind of off-the-radar stories about people we should know about, but we don't. Welcome back to the show. Nice to have you here.
Well, thank you. Talk about a Vashon High grad.
How about that? A local guy who then, at some point down the road, applies for law school at Mizzou. Now, this is in the 1930s, right?
Yes.
So pick up the story of Lloyd Gaines there.
Yeah,
then what happened?
So he graduates Vashon High School in 1931.
Okay.
He goes first to college at Harris Stowe, which is Harris Teachers College, or Stowe Teachers College at the time.
Okay.
And then he goes to Lincoln University over in Jefferson City. He majors in history, by the way. You know the celebrity historian likes that. And that's how he gets to the law school, trying to apply to University of Missouri Law School in Columbia. Remember, UMSL doesn't exist then. So he's applying to law school in Columbia at the University of Missouri.
Okay.
And at first, registrar kind of rejects that, and then doesn't want to make a decision, kind of lets it die, but then they force the decision. He's going to law school, though, because he has been really successful as a student, and he wants to do something in law. He was valedictorian at Vashon High, for example. He was on a debate team, all kinds of accomplishments. Even though he started behind in elementary school, he caught up quickly. And so that's how he gets to law school and applies and gets rejected. Of course, that ends up to be a court case.
Right, because he basically checked all the boxes. I mean, he met every qualification that every other student they were admitting to Mizzou at the time did, except for the color of his skin. And he says this isn't right, so he takes it to the courts. And then what happens?
That's right. So what Mizzou says is the state constitution doesn't allow us to let you in because the state constitution had mandated segregation.
Right.
So he goes to court with the NAACP, eventually ends up in the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court of the United States says, well, according to Plessy versus Ferguson, which is the famous case that establishes separate but equal, separate but equal.
Right.
Remember, that's the law of the land at the time. You have to create a separate law school for him. Now, Mizzou doesn't want to create a separate law school for one guy.
Right. So
what they do is they go ahead and they say, we'll create, the state legislator does. Now, remember, the Supreme Court sends it back to the state. So the state legislator says, we will create a separate law school at Lincoln University, which is the only black university in the state at the time. We'll fund it, and then Lincoln University needs to figure this out, right?
Which fulfills their obligation under the law. We've given you an option to attend law school.
Now, what happens from there, what's really fascinating, is that it goes back then from the state to the county, Boone County, who has to then evaluate if this school is actually going to be separate, that separate is actually equal. So it's a mess. The courts are going back and forth between the county, the state, the Supreme Court, and eventually what happens is, in trying to establish and trying to understand this, now remember, that's a way kind of out of actually having to do that at Mizzou, right?
Right.
So in that process, trying to create a law school in 8 months at Lincoln University, they start to do depositions to see, is this actually equal? NAACP lawyers and others are doing this, and that's when Lloyd Gaines, when they look for him to say, do you consider this equal, he's gone.
They can't find him, and literally has never been heard from again.
We don't know what happened to him. We have no idea. He went up to Chicago and vanished in Chicago.
What a remark. I mean, unbelievable. So what's his lasting legacy? What can we take away from Lloyd Gaines?
His legacy is huge because that court case is one of a series in the Supreme Court. Is one of a series of court cases that chips away at separate but equal and eventually leads to Brown versus Board of Education. What you see here, the U.S. Mint created a commemorative coin recently, a bronze metal coin in honor of Brown versus Board of Education, which of course desegregated schools in 1954. So it's 14 years after this case. But that is the Lloyd Gaines case sets the precedent among a couple of others that forthcome. But the Lloyd Gaines case is cited in the Brown v. Board Education decision. Now, another legacy that he has is within a few years, in the 1940s, there is a movement to change the state constitution to no longer mandate segregation. It's still the constitution we use today, which is really interesting. And you know who follows suit on that? St. Louis University and Washington University in St. Louis both integrate after that state constitution. Mizzou did it until 1950. But there's 2 schools here, they'll go ahead and do so.
So Lloyd Gaines, a pivotal stepping stone along the way to
towards state constitution and national law.
I told you, this guy, they're fascinating stories. Raffi, thank you so much. We appreciate it.